welcome back to another review. And this time we're going to be taking a look at The Last House on the Left, to be written and directed by Wes Craven and produced by Sean S. Cunningham. Now, Last House on the Left is a very, very important horror movie. This movie gave us Wes Craven and Sean Cunningham, brought them to the forefront, and pretty much this was the movie that launched their careers into what would blossom into horror greatness, with Cunningham doing the Friday the 13th, and with Craven's filmography pretty much speaking for itself. But it really all started with The Last House on the Left. If this movie would have been a failure, their careers would have never taken off. In terms of being culturally important, this movie is an important landmark movie. This is the movie that got the ball rolling on two very successful careers in the horror genre. But how does this movie stand on its own without that cultural significance behind it? It's not bad. This movie is okay. I'm going to tell you the things that I liked and the things that I disliked. So let's waste no time. Let's get right into this. The things that I enjoyed about The Last House on the Left. I overall like the aesthetic of this movie. I like this gritty, raw, documentary type style that Wes Craven brought to the film. It gives it a very realistic look. So that I like. I like some of the performances in this movie, with David Hess being the standout as Krug, the leader of this gang of villains. I thought David Hess brought this very sadistic, intimidating performance, and it really shows on screen. He really, he's really good at making you believe he is sadistic and crazy, and David Hess plays it perfectly. The actors who played the members of his gang, Sadie, Junior, and Weasel, they did fine as well. They fit the roles okay. The actors who played the Collingwoods, I thought they were fine as well. And the practical effects in this movie, to me, they look really good. And the visuals in this movie just itself is really good. Very visceral, very in your face. You know, the imagery in this movie stays with you. That's how visceral it is. Especially when the two girls are being dismembered in the woods. You know, it's like you can't help but turn your head away. And just seeing yeah, it's a very visceral movie when it gets to the violent parts of this movie. So those are things I like. The things I didn't like, different story altogether. To me, this movie can sometimes have a disjointed tone. Now, before I talk about my negatives, I also want to mention my positive. One more positive I do like. There is a dynamic that this movie has that I really like, which is parallel. We get this all-American family in the Collingwoods, and then we get this dysfunctional, degenerate family, which is pretty much led by David Hess. And I like the parallel between these two families. You know, we see one side of the American dream, and then we see the American nightmare. So I like how those two were able to mesh, and I also like how when the Collingwoods find out that David Hess and his crew were the ones that killed their daughter, they pretty much go down to that depravity level and become vigilantes by killing their daughter's killers. So I kind of like that, you know, that breakdown of the American dream in a way, where the average American family pretty much becomes vigilante killers, going against the people who killed their daughter. Kind of raises the question, you know, are you willing? Do you have what it takes to do vigilante justice if harm comes to you or your loved ones, like the Collingwoods did, like that extreme vigilante justice? So that's a theme that I really liked in this movie that plays out at the end, which I thought was pretty cool. Now, back to my negatives. There's this subplot in this movie that to me does not work at all, and it makes this movie's tone very disjointed. You got these two bumbling police officers that every so often the movie will cut to, and it's just their adventures of their car breaking down, trying to get rides, and it kind of disrupts the tone of the movie a little bit. Kind of tries to give forced comedy. There's also this scene with a woman driving a chicken truck that goes on for 2-3 minutes, way too long. Now, what I would have done, I would have cut those cops out completely. They add nothing to the movie. They add nothing to the plot. It's just useless filler fluff that you don't need, and it grinds. And whenever time those two are on screen, it grinds the movie to a screeching halt, and it kills the pace, and it kills the atmosphere and tension that Wes Craven's been building up from the beginning all the way up to the moment where the gang kills the two girls in the woods. But the constant going back to these two bumbling cops is just whatever. This movie would have worked best if we would have seen these two at the beginning of the movie and then seen them at the end of the movie when they get to the Collingwood house. We don't need to see their adventures on trying to get a ride. It's stupid and it doesn't work for me. Another thing that I didn't care for, some of the acting in this movie can be a little spotty at times. The two actresses that play Mary and Phyllis, their acting is a little, well, the actor who played Junior can be a little bit, well, and it's distracting. It's distracting a little bit because the acting in this movie can be just like I said, very very spotty, very very hit and miss. But really want to know what David Hess to me truly being the real standout, and the two actors that played the Collingwood mother and father Collingwood, they're okay too. And Fred Lincoln as you know as Weasel, he's fine too. He can be a little spotty at best too. So it's like this movie's kind of really disjointed when you look at it. You have the things that really, really work, which is which is Wes Craven's visual presentation and the storyline, and David Hess' performance. And then you got things that don't work, which is this useless subplot that goes absolutely nowhere, and a very distracting soundtrack that sounds like you're watching a completely different movie that I don't like. Even though I am a fan of using lighthearted music during during really, really intense scenes, you have this country bumpkin theme that plays in moments throughout the movie, which is completely distracting and doesn't fit this movie at all. And it kind of undercuts a lot of the tension and undercuts some of the violence in this movie when you hear these plucky, upbeat themes. Now, again, using upbeat music can work if you do it in the right way, but I think maybe it's because it's the whole 70s aesthetic. I don't know what it is, but to me, it kind of feels a little disjointed. So, yeah, those are just my overall basic bare bones thoughts on The Last House on the Left. At the end of the day, I do not hate this movie. I do like it in certain aspects. I appreciate its cultural relevance. I appreciate what it means to the overall horror history. It's a very important movie in that aspect. Like, in terms of its significance and what it ended up doing, this movie gets an 8. But take away all of that, I'm going to give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. It's okay. It's a good exploitation movie. There are certain things that work, and then there are certain things that kind of like just make it feel very uneven, very, very spotty. So yeah, those are my overall thoughts on The Last House on the Left. Let me know yours in the comment sections down below. Do you like it? Do you hate it? I would like to know. Like this video and subscribe, and I'll check you back next time for more.